Hey YouTube, this is Zach again from newtotorah.com. I just wanted to come in and make another video about this week's Torah portion. We had a great couple days where we got together with some believers and talked about the portion and talked about, just spent some time fellowshipping. We had a really busy weekend, so most weekends I spend time going through other teachers like Rico Cortez, Monte Judah, Jim Staley, and a lot of great teachers that are out there and going through their Torah portions with them and just seeing their perspectives on things. And I haven't had a chance to do that this week because I was so busy doing some other stuff with believers and getting together with them for Shabbat. But I'm going to try to play catch-up this week. But one of the things that struck me as I'm going through the Torah portion this week, this is the first time I believe gold and silver is mentioned in the Bible and mentioned in the Torah. In Genesis chapter 13, we'll get to some of the verses in a minute, but one of the things you're seeing right now in America is a collapse of the economy. And if you don't believe that's happening, don't worry about it. Go back to sleep. This does not concern you. What I'm about to tell you is not going to make any sense. But if you're paying attention and you have your antenna up and you're seeing what's going on in this country, you know for a fact that this country is going through an economic collapse. In fact, the world is. We're getting ready to see some very tough times in the world and in this country, and you're seeing more and more riots on a daily basis in different cities. You're seeing the financial leaders of the world coming together on a daily basis and weekly basis and trying to find more band-aids to put on this gashing wound that is the world and U.S. economy. So let's talk about honest weights and measures. Now we're going to get into honest weights and measures as we get into more of the Torah. It gives some very specifics on honest weights and measures. And if you've noticed on my website now, I'm putting up on the front page, on every page, at the very top, there's a Mark Call daily news update. Check that out. Come back every day, click on that, because Mark Call is going to give us the play-by-play. He has been giving a play-by-play on the economic collapse of the world and the U.S. economies. And one of the things he brings up time and time again is the honest weights and measures that's talked about and depicted in the Torah. And so the reason we're doing this video today is that it's the first time it mentions gold and silver. And there's another aspect here that I want to point out. It's talking about what is real wealth, what is real money. This stuff we have here is not real money. This is fake currency. This is paper. It's worth nothing. There's nothing backing it up. There's no silver, no gold. We've been led to believe that this is actually money, folks, and it's not. This is garbage. This is just paper. It's not worth the ink. I mean, the ink is not worth, this is worth nothing. So we need to understand that and realize that what's of real value in this world is commodities. And commodities are things that people trade and people buy and sell that actually have worth, that people need. One of the top commodities is gold and silver. Here I have a silver eagle. This is a United States silver eagle. It's on the back of it, it says worth. The face value of this is $1. I don't know if you can see that or not, but right there, right along the bottom there, it says $1. I don't know if you can see. I think you can probably see that. $1. But see, the problem is one of these cost about $34 right now. This is worth about $34, but the face value is $1. So you have $1 here, $1, $1, but this is worth $34. Does that make sense? $34, $1, but they both have the face value of $1. That tells you right there that this is dishonest weights and measures taking place right before your eyes. And this is part of the reason our country and our economy is in bigger trouble as it is, because we're dealing with dishonest weights and measures in this world. And so people have gotten away from the Torah, they've gotten away from God's Word, and we're reaping the sorrows of that right now in this country and around the world. So we need to talk about some verses real quick. And the verse begins like this, Genesis 13:2. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And I've highlighted in blue what is important here. These are the commodities. The cattle, the silver, the gold. These things are what makes real wealth happen. And this is the first time in our Torah that silver and gold is mentioned, and he has a lot of it. But what comes with that is the next verse makes this very interesting. It says, when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them to Dan. So this guy's got 318 men that he has trained in his house. He arms them, gives them a bunch of swords or whatever, like hightail it out, we're going to do some damage. I mean, Abram was no pushover. This guy knew how to take charge of things. Next verse. It says, he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them and pursued them to Haba. I mean, we're talking about Abram, doing a nighttime raid to rescue a brother, a relative, and to get him back, you know, his people. It says he took his family with him, rescued everybody, took his own. I mean, this guy, yeah, he had gold and silver. I mean, he knew he had wealth. He had cattle and gold and silver, but he knew how to protect it. He had men, trained armed men, and when he needed to go out and help a relative, he armed his men, went out there and did it, took care of business. I think that's something that's probably overlooked by a lot of Torah teachers as we go through the Torah portion. That number one, he had wealth. Number two, wealth meant gold and silver. It did not mean paper fiat currency issued by a government and saying backed by nothing that this is worth money. People back then knew better. You weren't going to pull that off. And see, today we're so stupid, and we get off on our American Idol and whatever else we can find on television, our sports and everything else, and we're lied to constantly on the news by a bunch of propaganda that this is money. This is not money. This is garbage. This is money. This is actually what is honest weights and measures. And we're going to go through that later in Leviticus and some of the other parts of the Torah about what is honest weights and measures. But it behooves you to take notice of this stuff. Prepare yourselves for the economic collapse that is coming, because this country is so dishonest. We have not been dealing in honest weights and measures. And when you get away from God's commands, when you get away from His Torah, what you're seeing in this collapse is what the result is going to be. So not only did Abraham have real wealth, but he also had the means to defend it. He had his own army, if you will. He had people who were surrounding him that he could protect what was his cattle and his gold and silver and his family. So bearing that in mind, know that you too probably should have a means to defend what is yours. And these days, these uncertain days, it's going to get crazy. And so you better have the ability and the know-how and the willingness to be able to defend what is yours. We're in the last days, folks, and that's the only way I see it. Market instability, I mean, there's a lot of talk on the internet. Today is Sunday, the first day of the week, and there's a lot of talk on the internet right now of upcoming upheaval in the market. There's a lot of talk about the commodities market and what's going to happen on Monday and Tuesday. There's a lot of talk about gold and silver may plummet and take a nosedive in the prices. If that happens, you go out and you buy some of this stuff. Trade some of this stuff in for this stuff. This is real money. This is real currency. And when this stuff collapses, which it's going to do, you're going to need to have some of this for your family to secure some of your family's wealth. I don't have a lot of it, but I have some because I know that what's real and what's not. So go ahead and do that. If you see the market tanking on this stuff, find a coin shop in your area, find a coin dealer online, and buy some. Trade some of the garbage in for some of what's real, and get some of that. Pastors today in the churches, you're never going to hear a message like this in your churches because pastors have no idea. They're just as schnookered as everybody else. Most of these pastors in these Baptist, Catholic, Methodist churches, you name it, they're all just as snowed under as most of the American public. And they're not real pastors. They're not real leaders. They're not real shepherds. They're deceiving their flocks just as much as the American media is deceiving the people. So you're never going to hear that message from a pastor, a pastor today, most pastors today in churches in America. But, yeah, think about purchasing some metals if you can. And that's my Torah Portion Express for this week. I wanted to talk about the first mention of gold and silver in the Bible. I wanted to explain to you what is real wealth and what is not. And then go from there. So we'll talk about it more when we reach honest weights and measures again in the Torah coming up. All right, have a good day. Go home, read your Bible. Thanks.